Welcome everyone to this session, Scalable Methods to Patch and Upgrade Your Hybrid Fleet of Oracle Databases to Improve Your Database Security using Enterprise Manager's Fleet Maintenance Solution. You get to learn best practices to consolidate and upgrade databases to the latest release at scale while minimizing the downtime. We cover automating the patching lifecycle to keep your databases secure, available, and compliant with the latest industry regulations. Fleet maintenance enables you to automate patching at scale. It reduces overall downtime, and it enhances security posture by ensuring all security patches are applied and achieves the compliance. My name is Harish Niddagataa. I'm part of the Observability and Management Business Unit. I'm the product manager for Fleet Maintenance Solution. Today, I am delighted to be presenting with Gary Henderson and Nathan Soundararajan from Nationwide, which is a large US insurance and financial services company based in Ohio. You will hear directly from them on how Nationwide goes about patching their assets to keep it current and secure. I want to quickly introduce Database Lifecycle Management licensable pack that has solutions to secure your assets. With this pack, you can secure and monitor your assets and make it compliant with industry and regulatory standards like CIS, STIG, HIPAA, and PCI DSS. You can monitor and manage configuration changes, especially undesired changes to reduce the risk of breaches. You can leverage built-in EXA check to secure and manage your Exadata infrastructure for any issues. You can protect from breaches by proactively applying security patches to your assets at scale. There are also a lot of other solutions like provisioning and cloning of all supported database types. And you can also standardize on database schema changes. Before I can show you what and how you can automate patching, let's take a quick look at reasons for why you need to proactively patch and check for secure configuration of your database assets. We believe at a macro level, there are three key challenges. Number one, unpatched systems. Assets with missing security patches increases the risk of data breaches. There are numerous instances where even though security patches are published by Oracle, they are not applied on affected assets. So how do you figure out which patches are available and which of these are applicable to the known set of assets? If you look at the industry reports, you will see about 21% of the breaches are due to the fact that patches were available but not applied. This is something that you might want to focus on, define processes, and leverage this tool to proactively identify missing patches and patch your assets. Spacebar. The second challenge is around misconfigurations. If you look at various data breach reports, you will see more than 50% of the breaches are due to misconfiguration. And this has become the preferred way for bad actors to exploit and get hold of sensitive information. Misconfiguration occurs when an employee, typically an administrator with elevated privileges, stands up a production database without usual security controls. Spacebar. The third challenge is configuration sprawl. This is all about configuration pollution. The challenge is managing numerous variants of Oracle homes created by various users within your organization. If this is the model that you have in your organization, you will notice within a short period of time, you will reach a point where it becomes unmanageable. And these configuration variations increases the risk and overall support costs. And if you are doing these with homegrown scripts, your overall total cost of maintenance over a period of time is bound to grow higher, besides the risk of breaches. Next slide. And this is where fleet maintenance comes into play. Fleet maintenance is a solution for you to keep your assets secure by ensuring security patches are applied. There are three macro level steps involved in upgrading and patching your systems. One, you scan your fleet to identify configuration pollution or missing security patches. You get the recommendation. Once the recommendations are there, you go either create a gold image or refresh the existing gold images with the relevant security patches as part of it and deploy it to the subscribed databases. And the third step is where you deploy the gold image and switch these assets to the new Oracle home. Fleet maintenance supports databases 11.204 and onwards, all the way to 21C and beyond. Fleet maintenance as a solution, we will continue to support as and when the newer versions of databases are released. With this, you can patch and upgrade single instance databases, multi-tenant, container databases and pluggable databases, rack configurations, grid infrastructure. And these database assets can be updated with or without data guard configurations and on various platforms, including on-prem Exadata, Exadata Cloud at Customer, and also if you have Oracle database instances on AWS EC2 instances. Next slide. We continue to add more capabilities to fleet maintenance. In the past few months, we have expanded UI capabilities. You can upgrade a database instance to PDB. You can upgrade and patch pluggable databases. In addition to that, we now support upgrade and patching of TDE-enabled databases in Exadata Cloud at Customer. There are REST APIs available for automation. And we also have API and CLI for getting patch recommendations so that you could use that information to create or refresh your gold images. This, at a very high level, is an insight into what fleet maintenance is. Right now, I'll hand over the baton to Nationwide to tell their story about fleet maintenance and how this has helped them to keep their assets secure. Off to you, Gary.
Thanks, Harish. My name is Gary Henderson. I work for Nationwide, and along with my coworker, Vaithianathan Soundararajan, we will share our experience with EM and fleet maintenance. This graphic shows Oracle's roadmap for future versions. Oracle typically supports new major versions for 5 years. You see 12.1 went out of extended support this year. This means no more patches. If you look near the bottom, another thing is reflected, new versions. These new versions may necessitate an upgrade, and these upgrades would come every few years. So not only is patching a concern, enabling upgrades as part of that activity would be highly advantageous. You will see in this presentation, we are moving all of our databases to 19, the latest long-term release. We will probably jump from it to the next long-term release, which may be 23. Before we get into fleet maintenance, I think it is important to lay out what our environment looks like to see how EM works across a variety of technologies. Next. This is what our environment looked like in 2014, 2019, and 2022. We have approximately 1,500 databases, and now, due to the multi-tenant architecture, just under 1,000 CDBs. Each clustering technology may present its own patching challenges, Veritas, rack, clustering of any kind. Reduce or eliminate those that don't provide strategic value and capability. Notice the graph on the left, how we started with Veritas clustering, moved to real application clustering, rack, then virtualization, cloud, and now Exadata. We are using EM across all these environments and use fleet maintenance across all as well. The last bar shows about a quarter being Exadata. I would expect this to grow as we move all of our on-prem databases to that platform. If you notice the right-hand graph, you see another interesting story. When currency became a priority, we had a wide variety of databases, and upgrades were only done with hardware refreshes every 3 to 4 years, with a few patches or upgrades. We chose the few versions as our standard and started pushing all other versions to upgrade, reducing the number of versions in play. By 2019, you see we were almost exclusively 12.1. And this year began pushing databases to version 19 and the CDB architecture. The number of database versions you support is an important factor. You should try to stay on supported current versions and keep the number of versions to a bare minimum, ideally 1. Next. Before we start talking about fleet maintenance, I think it is important to review what options exist to patch your Oracle database. OPatch, I think most of you are familiar with this offering. If you were happy with this option, I doubt you would be here. This offering does not have any licensing cost associated to it. Multi-tenancy. While not primarily a patching vehicle, the ability to unplug and plug into an updated or upgraded container database does give you an alternative. Remember, plug more than 3 PDBs into a CDB, multi-tenant licenses need to be considered. The next 2 options are both out-of-place patching that utilize gold image deployments and a quick switch from the current home to the new patched code set. Fleet patching and provisioning, formerly rapid home provisioning. This is similar to the next option, and if it were not for some of the benefits of EM fleet maintenance, we might have moved to this alternative. EM fleet maintenance. This is our current patching solution. Its advantage is the deployment activity screen, which I will highlight later. The one thing I want to call out is that patching is one of the tools in the EM patching and provisioning toolbox. There are many other wizards included with EM that will round out your ability to maintain Oracle databases more efficiently and consistently. Exadata with Platinum Services. If you purchase an Exadata box with Platinum Services, they will patch the entire Exadata stack for you. But currently, they can't roll the database OJVM component, requiring an outage. We are having them patch the entire stack minus the databases. We then patch the databases with fleet maintenance, which can roll the OJVM patch. Cloud provider database as a service. This option has to offload most of the DBA responsibility to a cloud provider, and they perform the patching. Containers provides database services as well, but patching them is outside the scope of what we're addressing today. Next. This graph represents our patching results over the past 7 years using 4 part-time resources. Green indicates the database is completed in under 15 minutes. Yellow, it completed, but and red, it did not complete and required assistance to complete. Prior to using EM to patch, we needed the entire DBA staff, 10 DBAs, patching multiple days per week for non-production, and 6 DBAs every production patching weekend. We only got about 70% of the databases patched in 1 year. We started using fleet maintenance in the second half of 2016. As we became familiar with it, we increased the number of databases in each patching event. At the beginning, when we patched our database infrastructure twice a year, covering all production and non-production, in the second quarter of 2018, our management challenged us to patch our entire footprint in 1 quarter. In 2022, in 2020, we changed our cycle, allowing us to patch 3 times a year, and our next cycle will be shrinking again to a 3-month cycle, allowing us to patch 4 times a year. We can achieve these numbers because we run 25 to 60 concurrent patching processes, with the average time to patch a database being between 12 to 15 minutes. We've completed our patching commitment every time. Rarely do we exceed the 3 hours for the patching event. One item to consider is we're an insurance and financial services organization. When there's a catastrophe, there's a response team that's deployed to provide insurance and disaster support, and our systems, our electronic systems, are frozen, and we are not permitted to alter the production system. This happened last month. So this coming weekend, we will be patching approximately 400 production databases and clusterware, twice our normal load. Next. You may have already picked up this capability exists in EM, but was previously only exposed via the Enterprise Manager Command Line Interface, EMCLI. That was until EM 13.5 Release Update 1. We will be reviewing the new screens later in the presentation. Patching is cyclic, and fleet maintenance supports that cycle. After you have assessed your environment and downloaded the latest patch set, you patch to create a pristine or gold install. Are you familiar with using gold images for agent deploys? This follows that same paradigm. Studying the agent gold image model helped us understand fleet maintenance better. You begin the cycle by using create software image to capture the gold image. You subscribe databases to the gold image that correspond to its configuration. You deploy the gold image software to the database server. EM deploys it based on the target type, Oracle database or RAC database. If multiple databases share the home, you only have to deploy it to one of them. When you issue an update on a database, it will patch or upgrade it based on the image it's subscribed to. Once all the databases have been updated to the successful software home, you issue a cleanup software for the database to properly remove the old unused software from the server and EM. All these operations except subscribe launch deployment procedures that can be monitored in EM. Of these 5 steps, 2 of them, the deploy and update, are supported through the new fleet maintenance console. Next. So to understand a little bit better, let me show you how we implement this. Our current cycle is running from July to October, with our next cycle beginning in November and running to January. On the calendar, you see the dates that Oracle releases the quarterly patch updates, the gray circles. We use these to the gold images for the cycle. We will use the October patches for the next cycle's gold image. We begin by marking the gold image for that cycle current. Then subscribe the targets to their corresponding gold image. Once the target is subscribed, it never has to be resubscribed. If you're going to update or upgrade a database or move it to a different gold image, you would unsubscribe and subscribe it to the new gold image. We usually deploy new code on Mondays. Next. Deploying the next 2 weeks' work. We try to limit the amount of time that multiple code sets are on the server to avoid consuming too much space. Our goal with the patching cycle was to minimize the number of patching events. Originally, we would patch development resources on Wednesday, but we found whether we were doing 50 or 200, that event duration would not vary accordingly, i.e., 50 would take about an hour and a half, but 200 would just take a bit longer, not 4 times as long. These events are depicted with yellow circles. Next. We found it far more efficient to have fewer, larger patching events. When it comes to production, next, patching, the red circles, we are limited to 1 infrastructure release weekend a month. Our 3-hour patching window begins Saturday at midnight. As I mentioned, our September event was canceled, so this weekend we will have double the number of databases to patch. We use a 3 to 4 person team. The first person, John, creates the schedule, coordinates the schedule, and primarily runs the clusterware patching. The second person, Vaithianathan, tests the enterprise manager, creates the gold images, and does the maintenance of all the clusterware patching routines, testing them for the new patches and everything. And he runs the database patch. Me, I'm the EM administrator. I'm responsible for the subscribes and deploys and the automation that we built. We occasionally have a fourth member that helps out with data patching. Next. So you keep hearing about gold images. You want to have as few as you can get away with. The fewer, the better. So let's look at my setup. When I look at my rack environment, 12102 and 19C database code, and the 19C clusterware. Next. I also have a non-clustered environment. That doubles the number of gold images. And at this point, you say, I have a few customers that have a one-off requirement. They would never let me move them to a standard image, and I don't want to put their one-offs on all my homes. Oracle's and my recommendation is to try for a single standard install. But if you can't, as we couldn't, try to combine all your one-offs into one standard one-off. If a customer has a one-off requirement, they have to consume all the one-offs. Notice that at this point, we do not have a one-off gold image version 19. So when the next PSU or release version is available, next, you patch your gold install and a new version is captured. And when you start using it, you make it current and start the cycle again. Databases that stay within their image lane do not have to be subscribed again. And the next quarter, another version. Last year, we added Exadata to our environment. With Exadata, you can leverage Platinum services where Oracle does the patching for you. But all of our databases had the OJVM, and it was being used in more than 30% of them. Platinum services were unable to roll the patch required and required a database outage. Fleet maintenance has been providing that capability, but that's another gold image. Now that 12.1 is no longer having patches release, the number of gold images we support will go from 9 to 5. We are looking forward to that. Next slide. So this is the new fleet maintenance console. It will provide the list of targets that are subscribed to the image and allow you to deploy code, patch, or upgrade. All of the EMCLI DB software maintenance capability to deploy and update is exposed via this console. Next slide. You can hook in custom pre or post scripts. Each selected target will launch a separate deploy activity, allowing you to monitor and address each separately. Next slide. I like the screen, but if you're a big organization with lots of databases, use this screen as your introduction to fleet maintenance. Patch a few databases and clusterware with it. Prove to yourself that it works. Then build something that lets you batch your targets together and leverage EMCLI to feed those into EM. I know new capability is being worked on, and I'm hoping to abandon my custom-built stuff in the future and use more of the built-in features of EM. Next slide. This is the deployment activity screen, or also the procedure activity screen. This is my favorite capability of EM. Each deployment procedure spawns an entry in this screen. EM keeps them for 30 days, allowing you to resume deployments days or weeks later. Next slide. Each deployment is broken down into its smaller steps. You're given a number of show options. Steps not skipped is our favorite that filters the list to only the steps that have or are executing. Clicking the checkbox for a step shows you the detail or log of that step. Next. Watching which commands executes and its results. If a step encounters problems, review the log for the step. After you address the underlying issue, the action button allows you to retry or ignore the step. Next. If you don't have to hit an error to look at the log. If you want to know more about what is happening, watching the log as the commands execute is informative. The log section of the screen now might be recognizable. It is the data patch. So the results you saw earlier in this presentation, practically all of the procedures completed successfully, but a small share did encounter problems. How you deal with the problem has been a key factor for us. Getting at the specific cause of the problem, seeing the log results. Sections containing errors usually have their title in red. Real easy to find. Take action to correct the issue, then getting back on track. This framework is EM's shining star. This applies not only to fleet maintenance, but all EM deployment activities. At this point, I'd like to hand over the presentation to my coworker, who will talk about some of the common errors that he hits.
Thank you, Gary. Listed below are some of the most common errors we hit. You may realize that no matter how much you patch your database, be it OPatch or fleet maintenance, you probably will hit these same exact issues. Data patch errors are unavoidable. The first bullet point was self-inflicted problem. We built the PDB state to take minimal space, not taking into account that patching the CDB also makes changes in the PDB state. We exceed the space available. The fix is to set the PDB state system data file to auto-extend on. The next error message is during CHAR cluster patching and was caused by the Oracle local registry having wrong permission. Giving it the 640 permission and hitting retry would resume the activity, and these issues appear to have been disappeared for us now. Data patch will fail if queryable inventory is corrupt. This seems to occur occasionally, about 5% of the time. Drop and retrieve the object and retry the first step to resume. The next error message is very rare, and this was flagged as a bug, and the fix is to drop and recreate the MTSS triggers. Enterprise Manager Lifecycle Management Pack comes with out-of-the-box deployment procedures. There is a deployment procedure called Provision Oracle Database. You can use the wizard or EMCLA submit procedure. This can provision Oracle software from a gold image and create a database as CDB with a PDB. The Provision Oracle RAC database deployment procedure is the RAC version of the above. Again, use the wizard or EMCLA submit procedure to provision and/or create RAC database to include CDB PDB. The upgrade Oracle database deployment procedure can be run via wizard or EMCLA submit procedure. One thing to note is that all of these operations should follow Oracle's best practices, which means follow normal upgrade procedures like pre-upgrade checks, check the obsolete and deprecated parameters, etc. When you are ready to upgrade, launch the deployment activity to complete the operation. The EMCLI DB clone management, a very powerful EMCLI verb. We use this verb to migrate some of our databases. You can clone a 12C non-CDB database into a 19C PDB or an existing CDB. Upgrade, migrate, and convert all in one step. After cloning and copying a 12C database, the source 12C database will be in read-only mode, just to know. And finally, on the database migration workbench, this provides a wide variety of methods like RMN, export import, transportable table space as means to migrate. We have not been using this capability due to a real application testing licensing requirement. At this point, I'm transferring the presentation back to Gary. Thank you.
Thank you. I like this slide because it showed that we did not do this overnight. The biggest challenge with doing this is having faith in EM. It took us years to get where we are, but the thing that helped the most was the gold image provisioning of the database home. This was one mundane job that the DBAs did not mind handing over. We had one database build that had 34 patches. It took hours to build manually. Now 15 to 20 minutes with EM, launched then confirmed later on the procedure activity screen that it completed successfully, done consistently every time. Then test out the various deployment procedures, upgrading databases, provisioning rack clusters, familiarize yourself with the procedure activity screen. Most of the activities listed in the slide are done with the deployment wizards in EM. Next, look at fleet maintenance to see if it can help you scale your patching effort as it has us. I began this presentation showing you the variety of databases, versions and configuration types, multi-node rack, rack 1 node, and standalone databases, and of course, DataGuard. EM handles this variety better than the DBAs. So putting it all together, next slide, we built a small Application Express app that lets us create windows and place databases into those windows. 2 weeks prior to patching window, we subscribe the database to the appropriate image. This is automated. Then deploy any homes needed for future activities. Again, let me start that again. Then deploy any homes needed for future activities. Again, queries against EM and our own database tables determine that it has been, let me go back and start that once more. Then deploy any homes needed for the future activity. Again, queries against EM and our own database tables determine this, and it has been automated as well. When it comes time to patch, we review that all databases are up using the screen above, then launch the window. Next slide. The launch job cycles through the scheduled task, issuing EM-CLI commands when the predecessor job is complete. As we've said before, we monitor this screen and the EM procedure activity screen to watch the progress of the patching and troubleshoot any patching task encountering problems. Next. So we should be on the helpful hints slide now. And this slide has a bunch of different items that I won't be going over in any detail, but this will show some helpful hints on how to get started with your own usage of EM to do various deployments and fleet maintenance. Next slide. Security requirements will continue to drive the need to maintain software currency. During this presentation, we've laid out how EM's fleet maintenance cycle is cyclic. How over the last 7 years, with a few part-time resources, we use fleet maintenance to apply patches across our varied landscape with minimal downtime. That the deployment activity screens allows problematic patches or upgrades to be corrected and resumed quickly. With EM's fleet maintenance, we have increased our patching frequency. The payoff has been significant. We have been able to patch more in less time with less risks. This concludes this session. Thank you.